Matthew Lebekin, the rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the little belly thing so you're notified when new videos drop. And I've been thinking a bit about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which often happens after you see I don't know how to describe it. I was going to say a good movie. Okay, so this is my much more in-depth, hopefully it won't be that long, but my much more in-depth and analytical review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I would say it's the least enjoyable, least entertaining of any of any Tarantino movies. Um, but it's as a piece of art, it's an impressive piece of art because Tarantino is an impressive artist. So you go in with that understanding, and you got something much more interesting. And so I want to try and think more about what he was actually doing and what he's trying to say with this. As I said, it's a piece of art. Um, so, firstly, again, this is going to have spoilers in it, but the movie it's been very widely described as a love letter to the golden age of Hollywood, and really the end of the golden age of Hollywood. It's set in 1969, and I think the catalyst that ended that age, according to Tarantino, was the Sharon Tate murder in the by Charles Manson, who I always thought actually did the murders. I didn't know he sent people to do them. I was really not that up on it, which is something you really might be helpful when you're seeing this movie, but doesn't really come up till the end. So the first hour and a half is a bit plotless, I would say, a bit meandering, but it's beautiful because you get just layers upon layers and lashes of atmosphere of that classic age of Hollywood. As Leonardo DiCaprio, he plays a over the hill actor whose career is on the decline, and his best friend Cliff is his stunt double or gopher, played by Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt looking more and more like Robert Redford every day now. He's aging well, that Brad Pitt, I have to say. And so the first hour and a half is all about atmosphere. You get to follow the characters around in their lives. You get to see it's very self-indulgent. I say this is a very self-indulgent movie for Tarantino. But again, if you look at it as a piece of art, then self-indulgence isn't such a major problem. So and you do get wonderful character moments. Um, you get to see DiCaprio's character. Um, his internal angst and struggle as he tries to act in it seems to be like a pretty forgettable as a villain in a pretty forgettable western. Um, that's a great scene. There's a fantastic he does narratively. He does great stuff. He does a flashback within a flashback. As somebody starts talking about one thing, you get to see the instant that they're talking about, and then they flash back to another instant. So you get to see. I think one of the best scenes in the movie is Brad Pitt's character, his run-in with Bruce Lee. It's just I found it charming and funny, and it described the character, Brad Pitt's character, really well, and made you understand his personality and his position and where he was in life. So where the movie gets anywhere near a plot, I think, is where it intersects with the Sharon Tate murders. Yeah, and they do cause some interesting stuff. Firstly, they have like a scene. I was going to say Photoshop. They do some CGI to put DiCaprio in The Great Escape when he was up for the same role as Steve McQueen. And then later, very shortly afterwards, you see Sharon Tate watching herself in the movie, but it's not Margot Robbie recreating the role. They show the real Sharon Tate. So was a little bit jarring. But okay, the thing that has most people scratching their heads is how Tarantino, at the end of the movie, and again, this is spoilerish, rewrites history. The Manson murderers end up attacking DiCaprio's home with Brad Pitt there, who is tripping off his balls on LSD, on acid, bought in the middle of the movie from the same Manson family people. Um, and then it rewrites history and goes into complete fantasy of how those murders were thwarted. And so, here's what I think. Yeah, by the way, it's a very similar trick that Tarantino did in Inglourious Basterds, where again, more spoilers, where it was a war movie, and then it ended up with them killing Hitler and the entire Nazi high command and ending the war that way. So what I think Tarantino was saying in that movie is, I mean, amongst I think, look, generally speaking, I think the whole Inglourious Basterds is about how the concept of power shifted during World War II. It went from power moved from Europe, from the Nazis, from the Germans, who were very erudite, who could speak many languages, to the Americans, who were not as intellectual and they had a much more visceral wisdom, I would say, and I think they probably had much happier lives before because of it. But that's on the side. At the end of the movie, they have Hitler is killed, and it goes into complete fiction. So I think what Tarantino was saying there is that all these war movies are complete fantasy. Yeah, then the war is not like a war movie, especially not war movies that we love. Or of any time during Hollywood. I mean, possibly Saving Private Ryan. Probably comes reasonably close to recreating the reality of war. So most war movies don't do that, and so as most war movies are complete fantasy, he ended with a complete fantasy, and then this war movie. But this, I think, is something different. I think Tarantino is saying here is that the golden age of Hollywood, which I think went from the start of from the 20s, 30s, right up until the end of the 60s. That golden age of Hollywood is a romanticized and wonderful age, which the world would have been better had we stayed in. Yeah, I say as an aside, this movie sent me back to watching Mad Men. I've rewatched Mad Men. I think one, two. I'm on my third rewatching of it. It's probably one of my favorite shows ever. But I got caught in it because I'm in the end of season 3, where again more spoilers, where Don Draper splits up with his wife, and I just didn't want to go there because it's too painful, and it all happened around the Kennedy assassination. But this is what Once Upon a Time Hollywood set me on. So that, you know what, I wanted to get through it and experience that again. Which again I think is equally the end of the era of innocence of America to a greater extent, or the beginning of the end. But this was the end of the end. So I think he's saying this: the world would have been better had not have ended that golden age, and that's why he goes into a fantasy world where the Sharon Tate murders didn't happen. The golden age of Hollywood didn't implode, didn't end. And that right at the very end, you see, I wish I could remember his name, DiCaprio's character, the actor, meeting up with Sharon Tate, which has always been his fantasy too. And because then he would meet with very hip director with Roman Polanski, who was a very hot director, and probably get a whole new career, but shooting off from that, just from his his social part in life. And I think that's what happened. That's what Tarantino was saying. He crafted a fantasy where the golden age of Hollywood didn't end then, and DiCaprio, and that representing DiCaprio's character getting a whole new second career as a more distinguished older actor. And again, as a piece of art, if you don't have to emote to it, if you don't have to follow a plot, it's really worth it. It's again, it's a beautiful piece of art because I think Tarantino is really fantastic and one of the most important artists today. Not an entertaining movie though. I just want to be clear. Oftentimes, when you have a movie that's a great piece of art, it's not entertaining. It's not repulsive. I like Peter Greenaway, the Cook, the Thief, his wife, and Cook, the Thief, the wife, and his lover. that's a repulsive piece of, but it's captivating. It's beautiful at the same time. This isn't repulsive. It's just there's very little plot to hang on to. I get the feeling with this, and especially I think also much more so with Hateful Eight, its previous movie, which were both suffer from being overlong. They would have done better as a streaming service series, like as a 6 hour event series, where he could have had more story. He would force to have more story, especially in Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight would work so much better if it was almost identical, just as a 4-part miniseries. And then when you binge watch it, it wouldn't seem too long. So those are my thoughts on Once Upon a Time Hollywood. Not a movie to rush out with the popcorn, but an interesting movie to watch as a piece of art. My name is Sheila Betkin, the Rabbi from Another Planet. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.